I don't know where these people that came from out of state, like from Washington or Oregon, or what other states they came from, came down here to Atlanta and started a bunch of crap. They don't even live here. They are members of Antifa, which is a domestic terrorist organization. I don't care what they want to call themselves, activists. They ain't activists, they're terrorists. Plain and simple. They're the same folks that was out here in 2020 starting crap all over the country. They're not anti-fascists, they are fascists. Nothing but a bunch of troublemakers. And they need to go to jail and stay in jail. They let them back out and they're just going to go do the same thing again. This needs to stop.
Injuring him, shooting him in the pelvis, and then the law enforcement responded by shooting back. The protesters who were out here last night say that they want to see a full, complete investigation to see what really happened.
Peaceful protest is not domestic terrorism. This is a chilling effect on the peaceful right of assembly, the First Amendment. Police murdered a peaceful protester.
There's a difference between protest and what's happening there. Arson, attacking citizens, shooting police officers, using explosives, beating people up, then burning their car down.
So obviously, difference of opinion as to what these protesters are doing. We can tell you that about 25 or so, maybe more, campsites were actually broken up as a result of this. And the GBI says it found the following. I'm going to read them to you. They say they found mortar-style fireworks, multiple edge weapons, pellet rifles, gas masks, and a blowtorch, all of which were taken in for evidence. Now, we're going to have an awful lot more in this story for you coming up at 5 o'clock. But for now, that's the latest from here at the DeKalb County Jail. I'm Mark Teichner for Good Day Atlanta. Buck, back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you. We'll check back in with you later. Now, some protesters have issued a call to violence tonight in retaliation for their friend's death. APD released a statement saying, quote, "Our officers are on high alert, and we will continue our work to keep our streets safe for our residents, businesses, and visitors alike." Well, now he shot back, killing that protester, and now the GBI says they discovered a gun. The agency says investigators found that gun on a protester. A silent memorial for an activist shot and killed during a law enforcement raid at the site of a planned training center for Atlanta police.
I wanted to be with other people who are feeling the same way for the same reasons.
Dozens of people lit candles for Manuel Terran, who friends call Tortuguita.
I am not for a violent movement. I do not agree with a protester instigating police. I have seen that police have terrorized Atlanta forest offenders.
Law enforcement on Wednesday raided Entrenchment Creek Park to clear the woods of activists camped out there protesting the site they call Cop City. The GBI says Terran opened fire, wounding a state trooper. The agency says officers shot back, killing Terran.
We're dealing not with protesters, but with criminals.
And now the GBI says investigators recovered this handgun from the scene. The agency describes it as a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 9mm. The GBI says ballistic investigators matched the gun they say they found on Terran to the bullet that wounded the trooper.
Arson, attacking citizens, shooting police officers, using explosives, beating people up, then burning their car down.
The GBI accuses some protesters of attacking police, firefighters, and nearby communities, damaging property and setting fires. They've conducted numerous raids and charged at least 12 protesters with domestic terrorism.
Are they domestic terrorists?
I don't think so. What terror are they causing? Who's terrorizing whom?
Now, there were some calls on social media.
She's live in downtown Atlanta for us tonight. Yasmina, the destruction is still very evident downtown. Tori, it is, and behind me is actually one of several businesses that violent protesters hit last night. You can see that the windows and the doors of this particular building are now boarded up after those protesters threw things through them. And there are also several other businesses here along Peachtree Street in downtown Atlanta that were hit as well. Like you mentioned, so far 6 people have been arrested. They are all charged with domestic terrorism and arson. We saw at least one Atlanta police cruiser on fire during that violence. Only one of those arrested, 20-year-old Graham Evett, is from Georgia. The rest are from out of state. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens commented on the arrest while speaking on Face the Nation today.
Most of them traveled into our city to wreak havoc. And so we love to support people when they're doing right. Peaceful protest is a part of the American, our freedoms. But when you are violent, we will make sure that you get accountable.
And the protest was tied to movements against the proposed police training center that some call Cop City. And city officials do say there could be more arrests for protesters who wreak havoc. And again, you can see today windows and doors are boarded up on those businesses that were hit last night. Live in downtown Atlanta, Yasmina Alston, Atlanta News First. Well, tonight we're also learning more about a shooting at a Brookhaven apartment complex that left one person dead and 3 others hurt. Now, Brookhaven police are investigating after the shooting unfolded at an apartment complex on Buford Highway. This was around 10:30 this morning. The man was killed, but his name has not yet been released. We still don't know if the other 3 people who were shot are expected to survive, but they were taken to the hospital. Atlanta News First will certainly keep you updated as we learn more throughout the evening. We want to turn now.
Domestic terrorism. The protests took a destructive turn. Several buildings damaged, a police car lit on fire. The protests all centered around their opposition to a proposed Atlanta Police Training Center. News Edge reporter Tyler Fingard was in the thick of it all last night. He's back downtown with the very latest.
More than 24 hours after a downtown Atlanta protest turned violent, windows are boarded up. This building on Peachtree Street is where the Atlanta Police Foundation is housed, which is why it's believed it was targeted. Police arrested 6 people in the violent protest that left several buildings damaged and a police car destroyed after it was set on fire. Downtown Atlanta erupted into a scene of chaos Saturday night as a protest took a violent turn. At least 3 buildings were damaged when rioters threw bricks and rocks, shattering windows. At least 2 police cars were targeted, one even lit on fire.
They just started walking down the street, breaking cop car windows.
Atlanta police say within 2 blocks of the protesters starting their destruction, they dispersed the crowd. 6 people were arrested. All of them are facing 8 charges, including domestic terrorism and arson. Only one is a Georgia resident.
It's simple to those who seek to continue this type of criminal behavior. We will find you and we will arrest you and you will be held accountable.
The group was there to protest a proposed training center for Atlanta police and demand an independent investigation into the death of an activist against the project. The city of Atlanta says the demonstration started peacefully before escalating.
The city of Atlanta and the Atlanta Police Department will not tolerate this, and we continue to protect the right to peacefully protest.
On Sunday, hours after the damage and destruction, the buildings that were targeted were boarded up and the graffiti covered. Atlanta police say no law enforcement officers or people downtown were injured as protesters turned violent Saturday. For those who watched it unfold, they're left shaking their heads.
What I saw wasn't peaceful. Blowing up cop cars and throwing fireworks at police officers is not peaceful.
Investigators say some of the protesters arrested on Saturday were found with explosives. Police say that at least one of the suspects who was arrested came from as far away as Washington State. If you want to learn more about who they arrested and what charges they're facing, we have those details on our website, fox5atlanta.com. In downtown,
I don't know where these people that came from out of state, like from Washington or Oregon, or what other states they came from, came down here to Atlanta and started a bunch of crap. They don't even live here. They are members of Antifa. which is a domestic terrorist organization. I don't care what they want to call themselves, activists. They ain't activists, they're terrorists. Plain and simple. They're the same folks that was out here in 2020 starting crap all over the country. They're not anti-fascists, they are fascists. Nothing but a bunch of troublemakers. And they need to go to jail and stay in jail. They let them back out and they're just going to go do the same thing again. This needs to stop.